This is fictional mindbender. So just as a disclaimer and a warning, this video is going to be a bit of a hot take on the character of Hanje, or rather one particular aspect that the character did. It's not that I don't like the character, I actually really like the character of Hanje, but this one particular thing has just been kind of bugging me since I rewatched the series, and I wanted to discuss it out loud. So having gotten it out of the way, I'm going to discuss some things that I like about Hanje first. Number one is her bizarre and childlike demeanor, which were, I think, well needed in the darker period of the early seasons of Attack on Titan. Her attraction Titan seems more like high school crushes rather than scientific obsessions or observations. And her comedic relief hides a surprisingly darker and more nuanced character that she seems to be able to turn on and off on a whim, with what I find to be at times a very chilling effect. You can never tell when she's being serious about something, or whether she's just joking around, or whether she's joking around but at the same time being very serious. All these aspects could be true and you wouldn't know it until she actually did something. Having said that, on to my gripe, which is, during the final season, specifically, when she's trying to convince Eren's friends to turn against him to stop his genocide, Jean questions it, wondering if they really should be trying to stop Eren, given the reasons why he's doing it, which is essentially to protect his friends and Paradise Island. And this continues until Hanje has one of her rare moments where she loses control and angrily rebuttals John for any justification for genocide whatsoever. Although she immediately apologizes afterwards, it does reveal another complication to a complicated character in a beyond complicated situation. You see, I found Hanje's arguments and stance to be somewhat hypocritical. Reason being that back in Season 2 of the Female Titan arc, Commander Erwin comes up with the plan to try to trap Annie Lionheart underground in the city of Stohess so that she can't transform into a Titan, unless she wants to kill herself, of course. And in doing this, he uses Eren and his friends as bait, basically, and choosing a location right in the middle of the city where there's a large basement, right in the dead center of town. So, when things go to hell, as they always do in Attack on Titan, and one of the scouts comments about the immense loss of civilian lives being caused by the attack Titan and female Titan having her own little kaiju smackdown in the middle of town, it's Hanje who quells any reservations the scouts are having, saying that it's Erwin's plan and she trusts him and that any loss of life is essentially acceptable as long as they get the job done. And also too, this is not the first time that she's thrown in behind Erwin for one of his crazy plans. During the campaign to stop Rod Rice's deformed gigantic Titan, Erwin deliberately uses the city of Orvid and its population of people as bait to draw him there so that the scouts can destroy him. Again, it's a similar situation to what happened with Annie, using civilians or the location of civilians as a way to either trap or enclose an incoming Titan or a potential Titan threat. And if any loss of life happens, then it's essentially acceptable. So, do you see my point here? Hanje, on the one hand, was willing to sanction and go along with plans that took or could take hundreds of civilian lives, as well as deliberately endanger more, for the sake of the chance to either capture or destroy a Titan. But when Eren Yeager goes on his plan to wipe out a human race that has consistently done nothing but harass, attack, and kill Eldians from Paradise Island, at the cost of who knows of how many of their own lives throughout the centuries they've been doing this, Hanje then decides to pull out the morality card and reject it. Her argument basically revolving around that the scouts of old did not fight and give their lives just so that Eren could then wipe out the entirety of humanity outside of the walls, no matter what his reasons were and how justified they may have been. This is one of the reasons why I was glad for the campfire scene. where not long afterwards, Yelena calls out the Alliance and their bullshit for basically being hypocrites about trying to save the world, when in fact, they had spent almost half of their lives doing anything but. And she was absolutely right in doing so. They were all hypocrites who decided to play the side of angels at the 11th hour. And I was also glad for one of Hanji's last scenes where she does confess her own responsibility in allowing the rumbling to happen in the first place, because the reality of it was that she essentially didn't know what to do or provide Eren with any other options than the one he decided to go with. She completely ignored the signs that something was cooking within the kid, and she says that she had thought that she knew him better than anyone among the scouts, even Eren's personal friends, but found out the hard way that she was completely and dead wrong. But to be fair to her, so is everybody else. So, all that being said, and despite my beef, I also can't blame Hanje either. Like many situations in the Attack on Titan series, there were no really right decisions to make here, just the ones that you would regret the least, as Levi had said before. And Hanje felt that the Survey Corps would not approve of genocide, despite the fact that they've done questionable shit in the past themselves at the cost of lives of others. And there's going to be an argument that's going to say that there is a difference between a few hundred people and 80% of the global population. But that even that doesn't sit well with me, because either way it reduces their lives to a matter of numbers. And it's still gambling with them, those lives, without their consent, knowledge, or approval regardless. This isn't a situation where the scouts are sending their own members in to take on Titans with their acceptance of the responsibility beforehand. These were people who were just living their lives before they got caught up in something larger than themselves that they were sacrificed for, because the few in charge who had the power to enact it or not enact it chose to make that decision. And, as I said before, while I don't begrudge Hanje or dislike the character for the decision that she made, I do begrudge her for the moral justification that she tries to rationalize it with. Because, one way or the other, she's guilty of more or less the same thing as Eren was. That is, choosing to sacrifice lives for the sake of a larger goal. So, what do you guys think? Do you think that Hanje was correct in saying that there's no justification for genocide? Do you think that there is an acceptable number of people to sacrifice without their knowledge before it goes too far? Let me know in the comments below. But otherwise, this is the Fictional Mindbender, and you guys have a good day.